You are watching Shop with Giselle Denis.
And here we are again with Giselle Denis on Shop with Giselle Denis, and we are in the portfolio section of forests. And you know what? I wanted to read what you said about forests too, because that was very, very good. Forests. I grew up on an acreage and now live in the country with my family. We live in a 3-acre forest, and that is my inspiration for my forest paintings. It is my calm, happy, quiet place to create. My mission is to paint about things, to paint the feeling of a place. Half of my works are created in the privacy of my studio, and the other half have been painted on location either at the Fairmont Hotel McDonald in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and the Raffles Hotel in Dubai. And I like that opening for this part of portfolio. Any comment before we jump into our 3 selected paintings for this segment or this show of Shop?
No, thanks for having me. Let's jump right into it. Let's do it.
Friendly Giants. Isn't that good? Now we're talking 72 inch by 40 inch. So we are 6 feet by 3.5 feet. So this is a significant piece. The names for my paintings don't always come to me right away. I was curling my hair and my mind wasn't on trying to name a painting at all. And then the name popped into my head. And I loved it, especially for its happy, nostalgic memory of that show from the 50s, The Friendly Giant. I used to watch as a child in the 70s and 80s. That's what happens with creative ideas. I can't tell you how many ideas I get when I go out for a walk or taking a shower or working outside. Acrylics on canvas. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like it says it pretty, that's a pretty new piece made in the studio. I was actually being interviewed there was a TV segment that was sort of preluding this an event that I was painting for a charity. And they wanted me kind of working in the space as they interviewed me in the studio here. So I was kind of midway through this painting and I was finishing it up while they were interviewing me. And I almost feel like I talk better when I'm in the creative process because I'm in this sort of creative space, and then maybe I talk about different things, but I had a bit of an audience with this one. And it's really is a lot of my work is because when you're painting and creating, it's very much kind of going inside yourself and playing like you would as a kid, right? So my process is like that anyway. So I really enjoy that about creating and art and painting, how you kind of forget perfection, you forget just adult worries, and you get into this space of like, okay, you've carved out this time, and really time kind of stands still and you forget what time it is. Kids don't think about, oh, is it almost supper time? I have to make supper, or am I almost finished here because I got to go and have this phone call or whatever. So it's nice to be able to have that time set aside with like all worries and everything sort of pushed aside just for the sacred time to create and be in your happy place, which is the studio, looking out at the trees. And of course, I always incorporate these flowers, these bright, happy, I guess the flower size definitely almost gives it extra personality. It's almost like there's people in there. Like it looks like heads. These giant flowers are like the size. If you spread out your palm, some of them are that big or even bigger. And so if you could put people's faces into these paintings, that's kind of abstractly what I've done with the flowers is I've made them like give them personality and faces and things to say. And yeah, so that's kind of the depth of that one there. And it's huge. It's 6 feet by 3.5 feet and takes up a big amount of space on a wall. So, and I get on a ladder or a chair, I guess, to finish the painting because it's huge. It's a bit of a workout.
It's very interesting. May I comment any questions? Okay, so just because you've said when you do your commissions that your paintings then are influenced and influence the people and the people influence the painting. So I have a few questions. How many people were on the television crew that were there?
Oh, I think there was about 3. So there was a couple people or 2 or 3 people on Zoom for the charity part of the call. And then the film crew was on the call as well. So there may have been like 6 or 7 people on the call watching while I created it. It was only about 45 minutes that when they watched me, but it was funny. I could hear them kind of getting distracted from their logistic questions about, you know, how this is all going to operate and work for the charity with doing it over online, because they were distracted by my process and watching me make it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting what art and the process can do to our brains and our concentration.
Well, it's the creative process. So all that is creative in all of us would be, you know, alive in that moment. So they're creative people, so they'd be drawn to it. So you said there was 3 people with the television crew that were there?
Yeah, I think there was about 3 on the crew, and then there was about 2 or 3 with the charity. So
On at there or on Zoom?
just on Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting. I see things. I'm not going to point it out because it doesn't really matter. But now the inward and the outward of the painting. Again, as I peer past the flowers and the trees, it's almost that I'm expecting, even as my eyes receive the colors, it's like I'm expecting to see something there. So it's like I'm coming to the edge of a very good place, but I'm going into something, good. And then the receiving of it, so the flowers and the trees coming out of the background, very, very powerful. It's almost, again, there's a butterfly kind of presentation of the leaves and the flowers. It's very centered and positive from a heart point of view, right? So and an intention point of view. So it's good. And I like that you said about the friendly giant, and it reminded you of that. And so there's that youthful kind of thing, and just that, and there's sort of that playfulness that was with Friendly Giant. When you watched this as a kid, it was just, you knew it was not what was happening, but there was this playfulness to it with Jerome and Rusty and the Friendly Giant. So it's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, it's like a happy childhood memory that sort of slipped its way into my.
You are watching Shop with Giselle Denis. Giselle will return in a few moments.
How to commission a painting. So step 1, you can send me a picture of your wall. So I would back up, get all the furniture in the room, kind of give me a feel for what's going on in your space, and take a picture. Step 2, take some green painter's tape or masking tape and mask out roughly the shape of the painting you're looking for on the wall and take a picture of that. You want the painting to fill the wall. And usually the wall shape tells you the shape of painting it wants. So if your wall is long and wide, you want a long and wide painting. If your wall is tall and narrow, you want a tall and narrow painting. Also take down those wall dimensions. And then you can email me the photo of the wall with the tape and the dimensions of the wall. Next step is talking about the image. So when you're coming to an artist for a commission painting, you're going to that artist for the thing that they paint, the thing that they're known for. So people come to me for my flowers, for my blossoms, my mountain scenes, my forest pieces, my wildflower fields. And when you're coming to that artist, you're coming to them for the thing that they do best. I usually direct people to my website. It's all categorized with the different themes that I just mentioned, and this gives me an idea of what your favorite pieces are, and then we talk about the colors, we talk about sort of the composition. So once all the details of the painting are finalized, I take a 50% deposit to get started and the balance of the painting due upon completion. I also do layaway plans, which is really helpful, and a lot of people purchase my work that way. It's just over so many months. You can chip away at it. I store the painting in the studio until your plan is complete. So there you have it. That's how you commission a painting.
Head and yeah, I love how that happens. And it was definitely after the fact.
Yeah. So and many things to visit on. Here's one. I like this one because of the green in it. And here it is.
And there's not a lot of negative space in this painting. So the sky hole that you see there in sort of the center, top center. So this painting is actually part of a series of 9 pieces that came out of one giant piece I made that was a 3D painting. I wish I had told you that beforehand when you pulled this, but maybe we could talk about it next time, because there's 9 paintings in the series. So I was asked to I was part of this design show called Vignettes Design Series.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I think, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an 8-foot by 8-foot wooden box built where you walk in through the front of the box and all the walls inside. Then you walked out the back to the left.
Mm-hmm.
All the walls were painted so that as if you were inside a painting. So essentially it was, anyway, it was meant to be a 3D painting where you walk inside the painting and walk through, and you could hear a sound bite of birds and the wind up in the right corner. And it was lit inside, and we actually incorporated real trees from our property and placed them inside this box that you walked inside. So you felt like you could touch the real trees. And I actually put some paint on the trees as well to showcase, like, you know, sort of show that when I'm in the forest, it's real. Like, it's so real. Like, you can grab that tree and you feel like you could do that inside of an actual painting. So the guy who came up with this idea, I've been doing this show with him for many years. And he said, ever since I first saw your work, I wanted to walk inside one of your paintings. So I said, Lee, if you could make that happen, just tell me what to do. So he built this box, and it was very intimidating. I only had about a week to make this giant idea come to life. And so once this design show was over and we had to do something with this installation piece, when we were taking it all apart to know, like, what do we do with this piece? We got to put it in storage or something. My husband said, we have 9 paintings here we can sell. So we took it all apart. We had each piece framed with this nice black frame because it was done on wood. And once we framed it, we put them up, and they've been up for sale. I've sold some of them in the series. That one is currently, I don't know if we can see each other at the moment, but it's behind me on my mantle.
Yeah.
On my fireplace.
I see that.
Yeah. So that's what those pieces came from. And it was really hard. It just about killed me. It was very hard on my back, and it was on my knees. It was up high on a chair. And it was like 12-hour days for a number of days in a row, like painting that many hours in a row. That's a lot of painting and concentration. And it was on location downtown. And but out of that hard experience came this beautiful reward of these 9 giant paintings. Like, this one's not super huge, but some of them are almost like 8 feet or 9 feet long pieces.
So where was this one? Where was this one in the box?
This one would have been on the bottom kind of center, I believe.
Okay.
I'll have to send you pictures of this box 3D piece. And then they actually framed the front of it with this gold frame. So it looked like, you know, you could walk inside with friends and stand inside and get a picture taken. But yeah, this was kind of in the center.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, when you called it negative space, again, the sky. So when I see, to me, your paintings either come out of that negative space, or I'm being drawn through your painting to go out through that negative space. Now, what is it? You include it in a lot of your work. So what is it? What is it for you?
Well, it just creates like tension, like happy tension and dimension. So, you want, like you were saying earlier, when you feel like you want to go past what you see, it gives it like elements of mystery. It gives elements of dimension, that there's something beyond what you're looking at. There's so much more to it. But this is like sort of a literal, it's literal, and then it's also abstracted, this sort of metaphor that I've created in painting form. So sometimes there's more negative space than other times. This one just has a lot of fullness to it. And I call that negative space also, you can call it sky holes, where you can, if you look at a painting and you're working on it at the moment and you want to add more of that sky, you can create more sky holes by just touching in some more sky and then spreading it out a bit more. But I quite liked the sort of smaller, it was just different than the rest. Yeah.
Like it's that, it gives that, feel. It's interesting that the person who put on that show, you said his name was Paul, that did the box. What was his name?
No, it was, his name's Lee. Lee Wright is the producer of the Vignettes show, but the fellow who actually built the box, he's with Revington Renovations. His name's escaped me at the moment. Okay. I can feel terrible about that.
They had the same feel, right? To walk, they're being drawn through it, right? So, we're just running out of time, and I want to get to the next painting. But what also stands out is the blues, the kind of the bluey green flowers. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting
when I'm working on something, I like to have a lot of color. And sometimes when you look at something, and you're making it, I know it's finished when I'm happy with the color balance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just needs, like, maybe those blue flowers were added at the end. I don't quite remember the order that I did them in, but I just work at it till I'm happy with what my eye is pleased with, I guess.
It's good. And this one is 40, so it's 3.5 feet by 54, so 5.5 feet.
Yeah, and if you click on, or if you scroll over with your mouse, there's 2 other images. You can see how the piece looks with the frame on it. I don't know if it'll let me do it.
It just, I have to click on it quick. It's just
or just hover. You can kind of hover. So you'll see the frame that they're built with. So none of my other works are framed, just the series, because it was done on the wood and it didn't have the depth of the canvas. So yeah, they look really sharp with the frame.
You get the broad stroke subtlety. Like every stroke is broad, but you put it together in such layers of texture. Even just looking at that little bit there's so much to talk about. Let's get to the choir, though. I got to move on here.
Sure.
We'll be here for 3 hours.
I know.
You are watching Shop with Giselle Denis. Giselle will return in a few moments.
So here we are in my studio, and this is where I do my live streaming. I've got my easel here and my painting table, and you can see me doing my live streaming on Facebook and Instagram at noon Mountain Standard Time. I make a painting from start to finish, and I'm talking back and forth with my audience. You can ask me questions. So it's very exciting. It's a fun time together, anywhere between half an hour to an hour. And I make the painting and talk about it. And usually people who are watching inspire me as I'm making it with things that they're talking about and saying, and they give me ideas for the names of the painting. Kind of comes to me often while I'm live streaming. So I hope you can join me next time on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
And it only takes an hour and a half, an hour and 52 minutes to paint one, and we can talk about it for 3.
It's true.
Isn't it?
Or a lifetime, right?
The choir. If the forest was a choir and each flower and tree was a voice in it. Wow. There you go. Begin.
Yeah, sometimes my descriptions are short and leave the rest for you to think about, and sometimes they've got more detail. But so I don't know if you knew about this maybe 2 years ago, or was it last spring? I can't remember. Time's going by so quickly. I was invited by a friend of mine I went to high school with. He is the producer of a show called From the Wild. So he produces, edits, films, writes the score. It's this beautiful series called From the Wild. It's a wild food show. And he asked me, I remember sitting in my hotel room in Dubai with my room service, and he emails me and says, would you be interested in coming on my show? I've never had an artist come out. So basically he goes out 3 hours out into the bush. They call it bush camp. And they go and hunt, they forage, they cook, they live out in the middle of nowhere for a week or so. And they invite different individuals in the community who are, with their skills. So I was invited to go out with a food writer, a man who owns a slaughterhouse, and they all hunt. I'm not a hunter, but and then they're forage. They're all very foodie type of people. We literally went out 3 hours in the middle of nowhere, set up bush camp. We slept in a prospector tent. I don't know if you're familiar with a prospector tent. It's a giant canvas over top. There's a dirt floor, there's no floor. Mm-hmm. There's a wood stove to keep you warm. So this was the first week of May. And the week before we went, it snowed every day. I was terrified. I've camped before, but not in such an intense, bush, real backwoods sort of experience. No toilet. There's a toilet. It was a bench with a hole. That was your toilet, and open air. There's no walls. And
there you were.
No electricity, very limited Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi, but very little cell service. And I spent a week out there, and my job was to paint as I was inspired in the middle of the trees with my easel and my paints and the freezing cold. And it was a life-changing experience. So out of that experience, I painted several pieces in the bush that week. And then coming out of it, I did a number of pieces. So this scene is actually where I stood in the trees, just feet off of bush camp, 20 feet off of bush camp. I set up my easel, and there was a sort of corridor of trees where the birds would come and they'd fly over my head as I was painting. And that's the scene. I did another painting with the tent that I'll have to send you these pictures, but I don't have that painting anymore. But anyway, so my experience out in the woods like that was just so life-changing in the fact it just gave me different perspective, gave me appreciation for, novelties of living with electricity and being able to take a shower and just eating, with a plate, a piece of wood with some twigs. That's how we ate our food, and everything was cooked fresh and raw, and salvaging or rationing the water supply, and being out there with people I don't know very well. Like, I went to high school with this fellow, but all the others I've never met before. And I thought, like, what if they don't like me? Or what if, all these questions that go through your head. I'm going to live in the bush for an entire week with people I don't know, completely out of my element. And I was terrified. We slept on bunk beds that were made of wood that were like literally like sweep off all the dirt and bugs and put down your mat, and it was uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable, but it was glorious. It was gloriously uncomfortable. And so out of that experience, I just was able to, I don't know, just so much, there's so many layers of what that experience did to me. And so, so out of that experience, it just made me paint this whole bunch of works and open up my brain to, another new ways of thinking and living and creating. And there's a lot. Sorry, it's a lot.
No, that's I'm glad I picked it. And
So it's actually, that episode is, I can send you the link for it. It's on Vimeo. So it's like I think it's $3 to buy that specific episode, season 6, episode 5 or something like that. I'll send you the link for it. So it's like, I think a 45-minute show or something. It was really neat to be part of that. So they filmed it all, and it's out there, and he's won like the James Beard Award in New York for his works and stuff. So it was very, very cool to be part of that.
Well, if it's on Vimeo and they don't have it restricted, I can stream it up on TVU. So
I'm not sure. I'll have to see. If you let me know, and then we'll figure out how you can watch it.
And that's all.
You were watching Shop with Giselle Denis.
All of my art is available on my website at giselledenis.com.